Hey, you're listening to the Real 96 Podcast, a deep dive into all the movies of 1996. Well, most of them, 25 years later. Now here's your host, Nathan Ludwig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Real 96 Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Ludwig, and I'm going to take you on a journey all year long through most of the movies released in 1996. Most of them were released domestically in movie theaters, but we're also going to be covering a lot of indie films and documentaries that might not have gotten a wide release or much of a release at all. So if they were significant in any way or weird, cult, off the beaten path kind of films, we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the breadth of 1996 movies, which is like over 200. So we're off to a good start. We've already started recording episodes ahead of time before our launch, so we're in a good shape right now, and you are lucky enough to be listening to the very first episode, like I said, and we're going to be covering Dunston Checks In. You might be wondering, why 1996? What's the deal, Nate? Well, 1996, if you're a mathematician, was 25 years ago. And 25 years ago, I got my first job at a movie theater. It was RC Theaters at the Aquia Town Center in Stafford, Virginia, in Northern Virginia. And I fell in love with movies in general. I saw anything and everything from 1996 through 1999. That was my job, and I loved it. I loved going to see movies for free, I'm not going to lie. But because of that, I saw everything, and it opened me up to genres and countries for movies that I never would have thought possible had I not had a job at a movie theater. It's a very special year for me, 1996. It was my beginning of my romance with movies and the start of my life as a creative person, a creative individual. So 1996 is a touch point for me, and I want to share that with everybody by going through all these movies and kind of just reminiscing. And if you're a younger person or you skipped a lot of movies in 1996, this will be great for you because it might turn you on to some movies you might normally not be interested in. So I hope whatever your walk of life is, whether you were there with us in 1996 or you're a little bit newer to films or a little bit younger, it's all good. We have two special guests that we're going to cut to here in a minute. Filmmaker Bob Rose and filmmaker Jeff Frumess are going to talk about Dunston Checks In with me, and we cover anything and everything you want to know about Dunston Checks In, a movie that I had not seen up until recently, and I ended up liking it. I watched it with my two daughters. Maybe that helped a little bit, but I thought it was a fun slapstick comedy that kind of got a rough end of the deal as far as its legacy, what happened to it when it opened. It was a bomb, not regarded very well. A little bit of a hidden gem from 1996, maybe one of the top hidden gems of 1996. So if you've ever put off Dunston Checks In because, it's a stupid kid's movie or whatnot, give it a second try. Give it a second look because, Rupert Everett, Jason Alexander, Paul Rubens, Faye Dunaway, this is a stacked cast for the mid-90s. And, Glenn Shaddix from Beetlejuice is in it. It's a lot of fun, and I was pleasantly surprised. So sit back and relax and get ready to go on a long journey with us for the rest of the year through the movies of 1996. We are going to be covering everything. Fargo, Mission Impossible, Bound, From Dusk Till Dawn, Scream, Independence Day, The Arrival, The Trigger Effect. If you saw it in 1996 and it left an impression on you, positive or negative, we're probably going to cover it. If you have any requests or you have any interest in being on the show, you can definitely contact us at real96podcast@gmail.com. That's real96podcast@gmail.com. I'll get back with you for some final words after the main part of the show with Jeff and Bob, and I'll talk to you then. Enjoy. All right, so we are here with Bob Rose and Jeff Frumess. We are talking Dunston Checks In. And before I turn it over to you guys, I have a confession to make. I had never seen Dunston Checks In until last week when I watched it for the first time. This movie, let's take you back. January 12th, 1996, the first weekend in 96 that had new releases.
you had your award season movies from 95, but this was really the first weekend that had brand new releases for 96. There were 6 of them, if you can believe that. Dunston Checks In, Biodome, 2 by Sea with Dennis Leary and Sandra Bullock, Lawnmower Man 2, Beyond Cyberspace, which I can't wait to get to. Eye for an Eye with Sally Field and Kiefer Sutherland, and I'm missing one more. Can't remember what it was. Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. That's a murderer's row.
That is like 90s pay cable heaven right there.
I will say, Dunston Checks In. I fucking liked it a lot.
I was very fun. I was surprised to see. I saw your Letterboxd reviews. I was surprised. Dunston got 3.5 stars. I was like, all right.
It earned every single half-star.
I just want to say right off the bat that as soon as I saw you post this link in the thing of the thing, the very first thing that came to my mind was this fact that I have known forever since I saw that movie in 1996, and every, casual time that I've caught it on TV or whatever. And it's this: Pee Wee Herman, aka Paul Reubens, plays a exterminator / bounty hunter type character who is hunting a orangutan whose name is Pongo Pygmaeus, and I have never forgotten Pongo Pygmaeus. It's burned to my brain.
Don't walk over though, because one of the things I remember from this movie, which I haven't watched in maybe 10 years, is his name. Pee Wee's name is Buck Lafarge, which as a kid I thought was the coolest character name I'd ever heard in my life.
See, I love how you gravitated towards Buck Lafarge, and I gravitated towards Pongo Pygmaeus. I did not remember Buck Lafarge at all, but I totally remembered Pongo Pygmaeus.
The thing that for me was the book of mugshots for all the apes, and that just fucking floored me. I was laughing so hard because I'm looking at all the other mugshots. I'm like this kind of stuff does not get enough attention in like a quote unquote kids movie. You would not have that's some dark material.
His character's a bit dark, but. So after watching this today, I actually made a post on Twitter about my favorite cinematic exterminators because Buck Lafarge is one of them. But it also reminded me of Caesar, Christopher Walken as Caesar in Mouse Hunt, Delbert McClintock, John Goodman in Arachnophobia, and Tucker Cleveland, Brad Dourif in Stephen King's Graveyard Shift. All those performances are insane, and I really think it's funny to put Dunston Checks In with all those movies too.
It's such a left turn of a movie. I was expecting, you see Jason Alexander and like
at the height of Seinfeld. I mean,
height of Seinfeld, but it's such a weird choice for him to play like a harried kind of loving father to boys in a hotel. It felt like a sitcom. Like this could be easily.
There was a Disney show called Cody and something. Really? They're twins. Cody, they live in a hotel, and it literally. The kids I used to babysit used to watch it all the time on the Disney Channel.
It was a show that was after or before Dunston?
Oh, it was after Dunston. So I wonder if some of that DNA wandered into there.
Gotcha.
No orangutan.
No orangutan. Sans orangutan.
Still, I could see like the premise is there, like a hotel where there's a monkey that constantly creates hijinks. It's like an Alf with a monkey, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And I would be remiss to say that the orangutan in this movie, his name escapes me right now. I had it written down.
Really good actor.
Yeah, Samson. Really good actor. We'll get to the best actor in the film in a minute, but Samson is so legitimately funny. It doesn't feel forced. Him doing his when Rupert Everett calls him on the phone and he's into the phone. Legitimately funny. And I watched it with my 2 daughters. They're 5 and 2, and they went apeshit on this movie. They absolutely loved it. Unintended. And 3 times we watched it 3 times. Like 24
it's honestly times. It's honestly one of the best animal performances I think I've ever seen on film. Which, I never thought I would say that now at 38, but it's great. He actually has looks, he gives expressions.
Yes, he does. This movie has a great assemblage of character actors and future stars. you just go down the line. You got Jason Alexander, you got Faye Dunaway, you got Rupert Everett, you got Paul Rubens, Glenn Shaddix from Beetlejuice and Demolition Man. You know, I mean, just look at that. I mean, Faye Dunaway, first of all, you're like, wait a minute.
Look at her filmography and up to Dunston Checks In. It's like Chinatown. The woman was in Chinatown. Yeah. Dunston Checks In. You know what I mean? It's great.
It's a screenplay with an ape in it. You know, it's hard to resist. I think.
Kids.
Well, I mean, about that.
So like this kind of falls into that thing I would call like 90s kidsploitation. You know, this movie. I feel like Home Alone kind of created it. You know, like it's not a knockoff of Home Alone. I wouldn't call it that, but it's definitely like a descendant of Home Alone, right? Like this was where the money was for actors at the moment. You know, it was.
That kid was a great kid. Little brother is a really great kid that I feel like he was in some other stuff.
He's the kid from the Santa Claus.
Right. Yeah. Yes, he's in the Santa Claus.
Eric Lloyd.
I almost felt like the older brother was a non-issue.
Write him out.
I'm like, where's the older brother? Like halfway through the movie, like this guy's not doing anything.
He was kind of like the audience surrogate, sort of like kind of complaining about how ridiculous everything is, but then he kind of fades away in the background.
You know what I remember? I remember that big, delicious pink cake.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
that was a big, by the way.
And it was actually cake. It wasn't fake. It was real cake that was fully made.
Yes. That they crashed into. It was sacrificed for the show. It got sacrificed.
I have to talk about Rupert Everett, who
his performance is delicious. This, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Cemetery Man is one of my favorite movies.
Phenomenal film. One of my favorites.
Oh, God.
I agree.
And then you watch this, you're like, he brings it here so hard.
He really does.
Oh, my God. He could have I would watch a Lord Rutledge
prequel movie.
Yeah, his name's Rutledge. That's right.
Yeah.
He's training orangutans to steal jewels from people.
Right. And Dunston had a brother who rebelled.
And he murdered.
He got the cane. He got the cane knife, right?
It's a dark backstory for a character in a kid's
movie. I don't know if they would do that anymore. Like just like even the hinting at the murder of apes in a kid's movie. I don't know. That's like Planet of the Apes kind of stuff. It's kind of graduated.
He doesn't waste a sentence in this whole movie. Like every second he's speaking is incredible.
His mustache and his teeth and his little lisp. I was like smiling every time he was on screen because I was like, this guy gets it. Like he is so leaning into this, and it's absolutely magic.
One thing I did want to talk about, I don't know what, is this actually directed by someone who's directed two of my favorite movies ever, Ken Kwapis. I think he's mostly TV now. He's done like The Office and Parks and Rec and stuff like, I know he did Malcolm in the Middle, but he directed probably my favorite kids movie ever, which is Follow That Bird, the Sesame Street movie. I love Follow That Bird. And he also directed the Jeff Goldblum, Cyndi Lauper, Peter Falk movie Vibes.
But you know what he did right after Dunston Checks In is his film was The Beautician and the Beast.
Right, with Timothy Dalton and Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher,
Yeah.
I watched that
Fran Drescher, man, that takes me.
It was a 90s movie, I'll say that. Yeah. But I just want to give him a shout out because like he's made a lot of stuff I love in the past. That's
There's not I did the commensurate amount of digging for Dunston Checks In, and there's not a whole lot of like tidbits on the film. But I did read that Jason Alexander started going bald at the age of 16. And and I'm like, holy, talk about peaking early. Like, I felt so bad for the guy. But, like, 16? I never heard of that before.
That story reaches back to one of the reasons Larry David had wanted to cast him. Is because Larry David, you know, like, he always has that, like, affinity for bald people. And he suffered with that since, you know, childhood. So...
Right. I mean, he did that whole Curb Your Enthusiasm episode about baldists or something. Or,
right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, something like that.
And to bring up Paul Rubens again, this movie definitely follows in line with his like weird cameos. You know, I mean, it was a cameo, but like, you know, like in Batman Returns,
Vampire Slayer,
and like other movies like that.
So good in Buffy.
Yeah, it's like he's so underused. I don't know if it was because of the incident at the porno theater or what. where he got diminished roles after that, or that's whether it was his own choice. He's underused in a lot of movies.
Wouldn't you agree though that Paul Rubens is a great character actor though? Like underused, sure, but he's
Absolutely.
great in those moments. Like even in Mystery Men, stuff like that. You know, like
he's so good. Mystery Men is another one of those. Like Mystery Men and Detroit Rock City, two of my all-time favorite films.
Absolutely, man.
Mystery Men is definitely a movie I can put on and just chuckle at the entire time.
I'm saying Paul Rubens like devotes his entire being to any cameo or anything. You know what I mean?
He really does.
Buck Lafarge included.
And then Dunston shoots him with the dart. He takes the dart gun away, and then he shoots him in the butt or something, and he falls asleep.
And he also gets Glenn Shaddix, who is the big mystery of the movie, is that like there's an inspector, like a secret shopper, coming to investigate the hotel to give them like a 6 star,
all about the star,
and
that's
the whole time, exactly. Faye Dunaway is like the shitty boss that Jason Alexander is wary of, and that won't let him have a vacation with his kids, because in Hollywood movies you have to choose between your family and your job, because it's not
always
like, that never happens in real life.
Come on, it's a good script device for kids.
And of course, no matter what happens, basically the message is always family is the single most important thing in the world, and nothing else matters, which is true. But right, that's what it is.
To your own detriment.
This is a weird. But did you both get like sort of the vibe when she's introduced? Kind of gave me the vibe of like a Coen Brothers movie or like Hudsucker Proxy or something. Like it kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of like Lady Killers vibes.
Or even like it almost reminded me even of the Kids in the Hall movie with Don being introduced. Like it was just, I love the way that they took the time to actually make her feared instead of her just walking into frame. You know what I mean? Like it could have been much lazier, but they did.
I just remember she takes a brooch off of her, off of her lapel, and then puts it where the stars go for the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One of my favorite jokes is in that scene where I guess is that her husband?
Yeah,
I can't remember. Is that her husband
was
or
basically she married older and richer, control the hotel line.
Yes, yeah. So you think he's the doddering old guy, and the whole gag is that Jason Alexander's son is under the desk, and he's trying to keep him away from Faye Dunaway because she hates children. And he's making noises under the desk, and as soon as they leave, the old guy's like,
that's great,
"You got a kid under your desk." Like that shit was funny. Like that was
I didn't expect to laugh
that joke at all.
I did while watching this alone.
I did. I legitimately laughed out loud. Yeah, several times. So. I was surprised how pleasantly surprised I was by this movie. I was not looking forward to it when this movie came out. I was 16. That stuff had passed me by. I was more into like rated R movies. I was just not interested in watching this. And I never had a reason to go back to it. And now that I have kids and I'm doing this podcast, it's like, that's two perfectly good reasons to go back and watch this. And we'll get into other shows. I watched other movies like Ed, which was not as on the same level as Dunston Checks In.
I've actually never seen that's with Matt LeBlanc and the monkey.
I mean, in general, movies that star animals are usually terrible. Like that's kind of the. I mean, what name other good ones? Maybe Beethoven 1.
Yeah,
is that? I don't know if I would consider
Babe. Babe is a great film.
Babe would kind of be the Citizen Kane of those movies, right?
Babe is the exception to that rule by far. If we have to, oh my God, Congo is friggin' phenomenal film. Phenomenal.
Congo is infinitely watchable. I'll say that.
Let me tell you something. I grew up on Congo. I rewatched Congo as an adult for the first time, probably in about 20 years. And I got to tell you, not only did that movie hold up for me, but I was just like, it's such a shame that Bruce Campbell was not given the main role, which he was supposed to get.
Yeah.
And B, Ernie Hudson kicks all sorts of ass in this film.
But I'd argue that Congo doesn't. They're not real. Amy's not real.
No, but it works. It still works.
No. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying in the movies starring real animals genre. I would put Congo in there because it's an actor in a suit. right? Amy's not real.
Right. That doesn't. Well, there are some real monkeys used at some point.
There, yeah, I guess there are. But the gray monkeys are men in suits, I think.
Yes, they are, and they're just like. Yeah. And I got to tell you, it just holds up, and just friggin' Tim Curry, just the way he says "binge." Yeah, every time he talks,
my sesame cake,
take your sesame cake out of your mouth, something like that. It's great.
That's how I gauge whether something is like, something I might have thought was average on first watch, especially in the 90s, is how many awesome character actors are in this movie. And you go back and you got Ernie Hudson, you got Bruce Campbell, you got Tim Curry. It's just like Congo is another movie. It may not be a great movie, but it's something that I have no problem watching again and again, just because of the cast and just because of just the Laura Linney.
And that was kind of I always think of Congo and Sphere. Not that I like Sphere very much, but those were the Jurassic Park green lights. Like remember Jurassic Park hit, and then they were like more, and then just I think 13th Warrior too, maybe.
13th Warrior is great.
I love 13th Warrior, but that's what I think of. But in the wake of those, that's probably my favorite of all the Michael Crichton boom. Outside of Jurassic Park.
Are we noticing something that is there an animal trend in the 90s that's not prevalent in the 70s or 80s or even the aughts?
Well, the 70s did have, like Any Which Way But Loose and stuff, and there was definitely animals in the Cannonball Run movies.
Yeah, but think about how many animal-centric movies we just rattled off from the 90s compared to, I'm trying to think of stuff.
Oh, yeah, and we can keep going. Mighty Joe Young.
Yep. Zeus and Roxanne.
You got Zeus and Roxanne and Flipper for the dolphin.
These are just off the top of our head, too. I'm sure there's like more.
Didn't Polly come out in the 90s with Jay
what about this might be
Andre?
This doesn't count. To say Far From Home, the geese movie.
It's got geese in it. Yeah,
that would count, or whatever it's called, Flying Home.
Yeah, there was like an animal lean.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, it's for kids. That's like crack cocaine. Do
you think
you have your movie with animals in it, especially
when they started? It's because now like around cats and dogs.
How many movies nowadays, now that we have the CGI, are real animals as stars?
I'll say this: I'm one of the few people I think who actually liked Call of the Wild, the new one.
I did not watch it.
You know why? And I realized why I liked it. I don't know about you, Nathan, but it's directed by the guy who did Lilo and Stitch. And the movie comes off like an animated movie that they just they made live action, even though it could have been totally animated. But the dogs are obviously CGI. But you know what? Like,
for sure.
I didn't care anymore.
Yeah, you notice it right away, and then you settle into the story because it's fucking Harrison Ford. He's so good at anything, and he makes you believe that the dog is real, and you just
I don't know. Did you guys see the Lion King remake? You don't. But like what Call of the Wild did was it let the dog be expressive. Even though that's not what a dog does in real life. Whereas in Lion King, they didn't let the animals have any human characteristics, like smiling.
No, they did a little bit. There was
one of the factors
there for sure was a little bit of that. You see it with like in the Lion. Oh no, maybe I'm thinking of the Jungle Book. You see more of that in the Jungle Book.
Definitely, the Jungle Book had it in more. That was more unrealistic. Whereas the Lion King remake, they were going for like stark biological realism. I don't know why that would be something you'd want, but
Hey, that's right. Because Scar is doing all this bad guy stuff, and he's just a lion that's moving its mouth. It just doesn't. It just doesn't translate.
Like he's doing his natural biological need. It doesn't feel that devious or maleficent. Yeah.
To bring it back to Dunston,
is still there.
Full disclosure, I did not. I was able to revisit one of the films. Was not able to revisit Dunston in time, but so I'm kind of going off of memory. I remember the hotel being very hustle and bustle, like feeling like it's its own character in the film.
It's definitely a great set.
Yeah, absolutely. Like going back to the whole sitcom thing, the set was so good and so lived in it. I could have watched the whole season of Dunston Checks In with the hotel setting. Not a lot of the staff gets a lot of speaking parts other than Faye Dunaway and Jason Alexander, but the movie moves really fast, so you don't really have time to think about that kind of stuff. So it was paced perfectly. I think it was like 80 minutes, 85 minutes, something like that. So it was really, really fast. So you don't really have time to think about that kind of stuff. So it was paced perfectly. I think it was like 80 minutes, 85 minutes, something like that. So it was really, really fast. So you don't really have time to think about that kind of stuff. So it was paced perfectly. I think it was like 80 minutes, 85 minutes, something like that. So it was really, really fast. So you don't really have time to think about that kind of stuff. So it was paced perfectly. I think it was like 80 85 minutes, which is perfect for that film. You know, I can't do these 105-minute movies. It's like,
but I was gonna say, like, like when they do the exterior shot of the hotel is awesome looking. It's like an architectural miracle. It's really cool. Like, the out. It's not just a a building that is just a brick. It is completely like a mountain that you would like ascend up. It's really cool. It looked like something from a Stephen King movie.
Yeah, it really is awesome. Or it could have been in a Batman movie or something. I thought it was really that evocative. What was with, I don't know if you guys remember this, what was in the beginning? They were like at the very beginning of the movie when the montage, they're getting ready to open for the day or to serve the guests. There's a shot of the money, and it's all, I didn't catch what that money was, but it wasn't American money, but it was all one denomination, like from one country. I was like, are we in like Monaco or Luxembourg or something? But we're in New York.
Oh, my guess, and there was just Canadian. My guess would be Canadian.
There was a bunch of foreign currency. They were all.
There's the guy who's in Beetlejuice.
Get a good look at
a bunch of. What's his name?
Glenn Shattuck, the guy from Demolition Man, Beetlejuice.
Right. He's he plays the critic.
Yeah, which is the twist of the movie. Because Faye Dunaway thinks it's Lord Rutledge the whole time.
Right. She treats him like garbage.
Well, he just keeps haphazardly getting screwed over during the whole movie. Yeah. Which I would argue he has the funniest arc in the whole movie, and maybe the funniest moment. Like, do you guys remember the VHS?
He does.
Used to have,
absolutely does.
The previews before them, like I remember specifically why is everyone in this hotel keep slapping me? That line,
he keeps getting slapped.
Right. That line was in all of those montages before the.
It's like somebody gets their ass pinched and they turn around and smack them across the face, stuff like that. Yeah.
That brings me to the scene, one of the big scenes in the movie where Dunston gives an erotic massage to a
he's dancing with his feet on her back, and she's like loving it. She thinks it's some guy, right?
Yeah, she thinks it's her regular masseuse. And of course, the gag is he leaves the room to go get something, and then Dunston strolls in and then gives her a rough massage that she's super into, played by Jennifer Bassey, who's also really good in this movie. And he just, and just like in a sitcom gag, Dunston leaves as soon as he comes after he does the massage, and then the other guy comes back and she grabs him, and I guess like
DTF down to fuck nature was a joke in a kids movie. Like, she was trying to have sex with like every male she talked to.
Yes, she was into Lord Rutledge. I mean, she wanted to talk to Lord Rutledge really badly.
What's funny though?
And then the masseuse, and I don't remember.
I think Lord Rutledge was like money sexual, in the sense that like he wouldn't even been attracted to her. He's just all about like needing money. And the funny thing is, and this is what I never understand about these bad guys or anything of this sort, they always need money, but there's never. Like, money is always the end means, but there's never a reason why they need money. It's just, I need money because money is money. Like
what's his goal in this movie is not to have his own circus or something. It's like,
oh, was it?
No, I'm saying it's not. He just, there's no, why does he even have monkeys to begin with? Why did that start? Like, you're right. He doesn't really have a motivation beyond money.
That's an origin story I would actually like to watch. Unlike some of the stuff we always get,
and just call it like what it is.
I think it's a talented Mr. Ripley deal where he's not really a Lord Rutledge. He Mr. Ripley'd some other guy and has taken his place and is like obsessed with using chimps to
Are you
like
saying
steal
he had a master that was teaching him in the chimp ways, and then he overtook the master and took the chimps himself?
So why does Lord Rutledge do what he does? Well, I think that he has that he grew up incredibly dirt poor, always wanted the things. He had a rival who always had the best stuff, and he never had the best stuff, and it always fueled him to make something of himself. That's harder said than done when you come from nothing. And so he studied under the tutelage of a cat burglar. But what happened was that cat burglar got caught, and when that cat burglar got caught, he realized that he needed a different technique in order to steal something that he could use as a patsy so that he would never go to prison. Even better, he's the reason that his cat burglar mentor got caught, because at some point, very young in his career, the cat burglar mentor said, there might come a time where you have to, like, you know, chew off your own arm to escape, you know, danger or whatever, like some sort of lesson that he's supposed to learn. And then the closing, the punchline of that lesson is that they're in a situation where he ends up rolling his master in order to escape. And then he realizes himself, I never want to be in that situation again. So he starts training chimps because he read The Murders at the Rue Morgue by Edgar Allan Poe, which is all about an orangutan that jumps from window to window in a boarding room and slashes people's throats and steals their things. So he got the idea after reading Edgar Allan Poe. And the reason why he wants all this money in the first place for doing all the stealing is A, it's just what he knows, but B, he likes to go to fine auction houses like Sotheby's and bid on crazy expensive things to fill the giant void he has inside from his childhood. Boom.
Let me add too. That's great. Let me add too that there's an aspect to his character that you didn't really discuss, which is the fact that he also has a weird ability to hack computer hack.
That weird hotel computer where he was. That was another funny scene when he's trying to find Dunston, and Dunston's checked into the royal suite.
I thought that was like kind of their connection to Bob later in the movie,
like Dr.
Lowe. Yeah, but he does have that like techno lean that comes out of nowhere. I mean, the fact that there is like a 3D model of the of the entire room, all the rooms, and he has info on all the guests in some kind of a faux internet from 1996 is weird enough. But the fact that Lord Rutledge, a man who doesn't look like he can even turn on a computer, can access it, manipulate it, and use it to steal from people with a monkey.
And he can find out where an orangutan is staying based on how many bananas to the room. Which I was dying. That was the funniest joke in the movie. He's like, one banana, two bananas, and then it's like, the presidential suite's got like 13 bananas. He's like,
a bowl of bananas? Okay.
It's just really trying to like just shove down our throats that like, get it? Monkeys like bananas. Get it? That's why there's so many bananas.
Well, I liked it because there was a bent of absurdist humor in this movie, some slapstick humor. It wasn't, and the cloyingness really wasn't that thick in this movie, which I really enjoyed. There was definitely some sentimentality to it, but it didn't feel unearned at all. The mother's dead and the dad's trying to do what he can while he's working. And it's very 90s, but it didn't feel like we were laying it on thick.
Jason Alexander's performance was pretty solid. Considering he's been typecast his whole life since Seinfeld. And him,
unconventional role for him, and he did.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is the kitchen fight scene between him and Lord Rutledge, where the two of them
go completely all out.
It works. It works somehow. Like like you'd think that would be a disaster.
Yes.
Like just watch, but it's actually really funny.
Right? Doesn't he use like a spatula or something on his face?
They have like a sword fight between like a whisk?
Yeah, he like punches
and a giant ladle.
Right.
And then Jason Alexander tries to hit him in the face with a giant bag of, I think, beans, but he grabs it from the bottom and it empties out before it hits him in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. That was a good gag.
It actually had some like well thought out like quirks to a
Okay. That was a great gag where he throws a bag of peas and they all spill out.
They all spill out before he hits them. Right. Yeah. No, it's a nice little fight that I would think in another lesser like 90s kids movie would have been like innocuous.
But Sandlot. Sandlot has a dog in it. Like
Sandlot's a great movie.
It's a great freaking movie, but we were talking about movies that have animals in it, and that uses a combination of animal and animatronic because there's like this whole
the dream
sort of like
dream version.
Right. There's like a mythological element to it. If this dog is like a myth almost,
Do you guys think though that Dunston ever gets name checked when talking about that? When talking about animal movies that are great? I don't feel it does.
Operation Dumbo Drop.
I don't think that would either.
No, probably not.
So coming from someone who had never seen it until last week, my impressions of Dunston Checks In was it's this horrible, shitty movie with a orangutan in a hotel, and that's for stupid kids, and that it's a terrible piece of shit that either won or got nominated for a bunch of golden raspberries. That's all I really knew of it, and since that's what I heard about it, I never really looked into it further because I was like, oh, there's no need for me to watch it. But I'm kind of kicking myself. I wish I had watched this a little bit earlier because I would have had much more of an appreciation for it because it really is not as bad. Like, I think the tomato meter or
I don't follow that stuff. I feel like
neither do I, but it's sometimes
neither do I. But it's got like a 5.4 in IMDb, which is not that
also,
low.
Comedy and kids movies do not critically fare well.
I've seen lower
in general.
But it opened. It's almost like critics take them too seriously. Like, well, this is not. It's like
it's got a 12%
think about it from a different perspective.
And
like, who's this movie made for?
Audience score.
Like,
you know what I wanted to check actually, because you know how did this get made? Does this, and I think it's really friggin' great. They go to Amazon and they check to see if the movie that they're reviewing is rated 5 stars by anybody. If the question is this someone's favorite movie of all time?
I have no doubt it is. I have no doubt.
Wow, 5 stars.
Just like
there's 87%.
Absolutely, just like there's a fetish for everybody.
Oh my
Somebody's
God.
got 5 stars.
It is highly rated.
For a movie starring an orangutan, yes, it's really that's extremely high, actually.
Dude, this is insane. I can't get over how many 5-star ratings are in here.
Yeah. I think there's like this movie. When I was a kid, I did not see it in theaters. I only saw it on cable. In fact, I thought this was a direct-to-video movie for the longest time. I didn't even realize it had a theatrical release.
Oh, man.
Well, you wouldn't have known it because it made $3 million in its opening weekend in 1996. It was a January dump, and it grossed.
How
it
much
didn't even break $10 million in the U.S. It made $9.9 million.
It has to be
total.
Now, is this the same orangutan?
Oh, I think it was like 15 or 18
James Silent Bob Strike
like
Back, and
does the orangutan have an IMDb?
It's got a Samson. Let's check. Is his name actually Samson? Well, that's a goddamn.
I don't think he's.
You want to know something?
Let me see.
All right, animals are people too, and they deserve credit.
Sam.
Oh yeah,
his name is Sam.
Right, Sam. Okay, he was in.
Absolutely.
Are you serious? He's not in Mallrats or
other orangutan.
Bob Strike Back.
Nope.
Oh man.
You know what though?
He passed a day after his birthday.
He's got one shining performance more. That's a lot more than a lot of orangutans in the world.
That's true. I agree.
I know I'm going to watch a lot of movies. I've seen most of the movies in '96, but it's been a while. But Dunston was one of the ones that I had never seen at all.
Do you
I have to say it could be?
Do you
an
have
early
a
front runner for biggest surprise?
Of the movies you haven't seen
biggest
in 1996?
I do have a running list, and another show we're going to do soon.
I saw your Letterboxd review of that too, and it's funny because I was like, I'm kind of glad I'm not on that.
Hold on, I gotta look and see.
You don't want to hear how much I love Biodome.
Hold on.
No, I'm fine with that. It just maybe I had to have seen it in 1996 because I just kind of sat there going,
more movies than you did this year.
Man,
I thought I was slagging behind. I think I have you beat by 2. I am amazed, sir.
Are you talking about 2020 or 2021?
2021. I'm at 9, but I had a very strong, for me at least, I had a very strong 2020. I had 311 movies, which is like unheard of for me. Yeah.
I usually
it's tough, dude. It's so
in the last.
You say 100? Are you counting film festivals?
I just can't.
I'm at 17.
No, I'm not counting that stuff. No, I just
good for you. Good for you. You're starting off nice and
strong. Wait a minute. I counted that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Bob,
9.
Are you on?
Never mind. It was really 9. Good. Never mind. I counted it wrong.
Oh, so we're tied right now?
Yeah, we're tied.
I'm in the middle of Rad, by the way. As I know, this is an '80s movie, but I'm in the middle of Rad right before we started this episode. Never seen it before.
I do. I enjoy Rad. I'm also rewatching TV shows that kind of cuts into the.
Yes, I watched so many TV shows last year that it definitely made my count lower for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
If there is, I don't know. Yeah, there's got to be.
Is there
not
mini TV shows?
I always count miniseries.
Yeah, like there's Stephen King miniseries and stuff on here, and like you could put Tiger King was on Letterboxd. So I was like, that's really not a movie.
Yes, I think
if it's on.
No, I would stick with movies, but I think
it's on
their
Letterboxd,
criteria, I guess,
count it.
If it doesn't have multiple seasons, then it counts. I mean, I guess.
I put my own movies on Letterboxd, so then I wonder how legit.
Oh yeah, I do like stand-up specials on.
Me too.
You know,
actually, I owe Nathan.
I'm a regular contributor on TMDb.
You are the reason why after I saw what you had done and I figured out how to do it myself, I started putting my own stuff on there. But you put my movie on. I was really grateful for that. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Truly.
Yeah. You're welcome. I go to a lot of festivals and I watch all this stuff, and I'm like, God damn it, I'm not going to get credit for watching it. I'm just going to.
I'm
going to add it, and then I'm going to say that I saw it or whatever.
Because of Genre Blast, because that's how I found out you could do that in the group.
Bob, were you at Genre Blast 2018?
2019.
You were at 2019.
I was at 2019, which now feels like 30 years ago.
Oh my God! Yeah. Can you this last year? Seriously, felt like 5 years. It really did.
Deeply. It was emotionally 5 years.
Do you know it hasn't even been? It hasn't even been
a month.
It hasn't even been 5 years. Yes. I mean, it hasn't even been a year. That's what I meant to say. Sorry.
No, it'll be a year and like 2 months. I mean, God, it feels, it doesn't, I'm like, it's not even a year yet. It's so depressing to think about. I'm like, Jesus.
Oh, Bob, you
so much
edited a segment in VHS2.
Like,
I did. I edited the zombie segment in VHS2 with Ed Sanchez. He's a great guy.
Wait, which one? Hold on. I'm trying to remember which one I saw. I've seen all the VHS. I love all.
Oh, yeah. It's the segment with the guy who's riding his bike with a GoPro on, and then he encounters zombies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a phenomenal one.
Yeah.
Dude. Holy crap! With the there's the birthday party.
Yep.
Dude, that one was super effed up.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. They're really fun.
I like the third one.
Dude, I love all the VHS movies.
That's kind of the biggest thing that I've done.
I love all three.
I'm proud of it, and Ed's a great guy, and I actually do a podcast with the guy who wrote it, which is Jamie Nash. So like. It's a nice little seminal point in my life, and it's probably my biggest credit. So,
By the way, can we just quickly say that the segment in VHS, the other segment in VHS2, the one with the cult?
Oh my God, absolutely incredible!
Hell, is that not like the greatest like roller coaster ride? Like, oh my God, that filmmaker!
That short literally
that filmmaker.
Let me tell you a small story about that.
It was terrible.
We saw in the Maryland Film Festival was the premiere of VHS2 for the Maryland premiere at least, and like Ed was there and he was going to say something. After VHS2 ended, he got up on stage and he just looked at the screen and like awkwardly, and he was like, "I guess $50,000 goes way farther in Indonesia." Like, because if you watch that movie, and I really like that entire movie, but their segment, that segment looks like it's 10 times the budget they had. It's so good looking and so well executed.
Yeah, the Mo Brothers. They did.
They are.
Those guys.
They did the Mo Brothers, which is about the cannibals.
The Mo Brothers are amazing.
They did Killers.
Yeah.
Killers is great. That came out recently. Oh yeah, they did The Night Comes for Us.
So much blood in that
movie. Oh yeah.
And they did absolutely the most disturbing.
Oh my God!
Maybe my most favorite segment of ABCs of Death. L is for libido. Absolutely the most disturbing, like sick, like probably would be the crowning jewel of the Sick and Wrong Film Festival for Steven.
Right.
Oh, that one is phenomenal.
I forget who directed it, but my vote is Z is for Psycho.
Part one.
Y'all remember that one?
That's part two.
I don't remember the title, and this should come as no surprise.
I think it's part two.
My favorite would be the Japanese farting one.
And
yes, that was from the first one.
Was that the first one? Yeah.
The other one that I really like, there's a director that nobody talks about, and he is just when I try to I love this thing that Quentin Tarantino has said, and I think it's so true for anyone who's just out there grinding to make stuff, who also is a voracious movie watcher. Tell me if you guys, Bob and Nate, tell me if you guys agree with this, because you guys both make stuff and you both consume stuff like I do. you have your taste and you have your ability. And your taste is what you're into, and your ability is what you're able to execute, however you can execute. And you're always trying to bridge the gap between your taste and your ability, meaning that you want your ability to be able to mimic the things that you want to put into a story. And I feel no greater like sense of that when watching I think it's P is for Pressure. That filmmaker, it's the woman who stomps on animals. I don't know if you remember that one.
No, I do remember that.
Yeah, really fucked up segment. That director did a movie called Red, White, and Blue. He's from England, I think. Simon.
Okay.
This guy's storytelling and the way he edits, he just blows me away. He blows me away. And
you're saying that's your goal is to. No, he's like the distance to get to, is what you're saying.
He's not. No, I'm not. It's not that he's the distance to get to. It's just that like I'm always trying. I guess I'm always trying to make work that I think is smart like that. But the problem that gets in my way is my ability. It's like imagining the finest, most prettiest unicorn in your head, and then when you try to draw it on paper, it doesn't look anything like it does in your imagination.
I get that, but I would call it, for me, it's the Salieri complex, pretty much.
What does that mean?
Like, if you've seen Amadeus, right?
I have not seen Amadeus.
You should see Amadeus.
It's on my list.
It's a great. You know what you get what I'm talking about, Nathan. Like Salieri was basically completely jealous of Mozart's God-given talent, and no matter what Salieri did, he prayed to God. He asked God. He gave himself. He like stayed away from women and alcohol, sin basically, so that God would imbue him with the talent. And he's not as talented as Mozart naturally was, and he hates him for that. So, like that's kind of how I view it. Like the people that I admire, I'm like, I don't hate them though. I guess that's the difference. I don't like hate them for what they do.
Oh yeah,
like,
there's
sitting here like, how did they get so good? How did they do that naturally?
No hate. It's just like I look at something and I'm like, I want to do that too, or I think that I love that. That's my taste, and I think that's when how people are just like, how do like bad movies or like this? How is this movie so like flawed? Get Out, and like how could they not see? I'm watching it. I'm able to see like from my armchair, like an armchair quarterback from a mile away, like, oh, well, this is what's clearly wrong with this film. Meanwhile, these people had like millions of dollars to do this thing and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's ultimately an extension of that too, in the sense of you can have a brilliant idea on paper, and then when you're executing it in production, something either gets lost in translation or something can't be executed. A great example, I'm on a quest to watch every single Nicolas Cage film ever made. He's made 121 films, and I've seen, I want to say I know it sounds like a paltry number, but really when you think about how many films he's done, I think I've seen about 44 or 45 at this point.
Okay.
And the one I just watched yesterday, direct to TV one, is called The Human Bureau, the Humanity Bureau. And
I've
it's just,
heard of that.
Yeah, because I mean, he probably made about 50 or 60 movies since 2014, something like crazy like that. He made a lot of movies. And what's interesting is, and it speaks to this even bigger concept, which is the idea is phenomenal. The stuff that happens in the movie is phenomenal, but it's just the execution is terrible.
And checks in. I was going to ask you.
So how do you think that would apply to
how you feel about that one filmmaker you said, the Red, White, and Blue? Do you think there's anyone out there that's like Dunston Checks In? Is that for me?
In the same way that Dunston Checks In is someone's favorite film, there's got to be some filmmaker out there that's like, I need to make the next Dunston Checks In.
There has to be, right?
What
would you guys do for a sequel or a remake of Dunston Checks In? If you could do setting or any plot, how would you?
A prequel with Lord
Rutledge Dunston Checks In
would definitely be interesting. Sadly, you'd have to recast because he's probably, Rupert Everett doesn't look like that anymore. but anything with an extension of his character or Buck Lafarge.
I agree with Bob, and I would take the story that I just thought up just now. I would use that, or what I would the thread that I would really pull on is the idea of remaking it as a horror film and basically a reimagining of Murders at the Rue Morgue meets Dunston Checks In, since they seem to overlap thematically in terms of, I would start it from the perspective of a murder, and someone's trying to solve a murder and they can't figure out how this murder could have possibly happened. And the only way it could have happened was an orangutan. And that's because there's an orangutan utilizing serial killer who's Lord Rutledge. And the reason why he's killing everybody is because he's collecting hearts. And he trains the orangutans to cut out the hearts with a straight razor. And when he has 16 hearts in a row, that's the same number of years as his dead daughter, who died at the age of 16. He can resurrect her with those 16 hearts, which he puts into a blender, and then he drinks the hearts
to gain power.
Right, to gain the power, and is able to resuscitate his dead daughter. So it's basically a serial killing. It's a serial killer that uses orangutans to kill his victims in hotels in order to resurrect his dead daughter. That's my Dunston Checks In remake.
I would maybe do a slant horror movie to that, where I would mix up like Room 1408 and People Under the Stairs with Dunston Checks In, where there's this one room in a hotel where people keep checking in and they always get murdered. And no one knows why, but as the audience, we're privy to the fact that it's actually an orangutan living in the walls of the hotel, always killing residents.
But my question, Bob, why?
Well, the why I'm thinking this up on the fly. The why is that maybe the owner of the hotel has been keeping a surrogate family of orangutans in the basement for years that are running wild throughout the walls of this entire place. And one of them has gone bad. One of them is no longer listening to the pack anymore. And he thirsts for blood.
I like it.
Bad Ronald, man. When they talk about movies that are ahead of their time, like Blade Runner or Zardoz or whatever. I mean,
those two plots. That's always the problem. And then what happens is you
ahead of their
the
time.
Things that are ahead of their time, they open the door for everything else, and then everything else walks all over it, and it gets left in the threshold.
Although I would also like to see like a movie where just Buck Lafarge goes on to he goes in he goes to the jungle and he has to hunt like a wild beast, or throw him in a Jurassic Park movie or something.
Actually, or you do a Congo crossover where they need him to go to the lost city of Vizinge to retrieve the diamonds.
Right.
Oh my God, yes.
Or
you could do a buddy comedy, Ace Ventura with Buck Lafarge.
Van Pelt from the original Jumanji and Buck Lafarge.
Oh my God.
Or all three. You throw in Ace Ventura too. You know what I mean? You can have a whole like Expendables of animal hunters.
I love
90s animal hunters.
That now. Give me that now.
Right.
I love it.
Or you could go with the Exterminator angle too. Either way.
The Animal Control Cinematic Universe. So I did a little snooping around. Have you guys seen the Funny or Die video on Dunston Checks In? The one where the guy, it sounds like he's being serious in his review of how Dunston Checks In is this underrated masterpiece, and the second half of the review goes off the rails and is talking about how it's this psychosexual thriller. And it's really funny. Like, you can tell he's just messing around, but it brings me to this question that it brought up in the video too. You can find it on YouTube.
Are you asking that in the context of the movie we see, or in the possible future of the family that we are saying goodbye to at the end?
In the eye of the beholder, in the movie,
is that her spirit has been imbued into saying?
Do you think it's plausible that could be one of the intentions of the film? Just the arrival of the chaotic arrival of Dunston,
the emotional
kind of not necessarily taking place of the mother,
the emotional void is being
that is
filled by this
Well, these are children who have lost their mother. They also are neglected, as we're shown, is that he is completely consumed by the absolute perfection of the hotel. And he has no time. But then again, he's also like, he cares about going on that trip with them. So their dad hasn't completely checked out.
He's trying to serve two masters. In Hollywood movies, that's impossible.
Right.
Like the ultimate example of that is Liar Liar, where it's just like, should I be a corporate
Spider-Man
Nazi, or should I,
very
love
simply,
my children forever?
the core dynamic of the character of Spider-Man is whatever Peter Parker wants is in conflict with Spider-Man, and whatever Spider-Man wants is in conflict with Peter Parker, and Peter Parker always gives in to whatever Spider-Man wants.
Spider-Man has the more just and important work.
Right.
He has to
what makes him a hero is that Spider-Man's needs always weigh out, always take priority over Peter's needs. And that's what makes Peter such a hero.
So, in addition to Jason Alexander's Spider-Man in this is his job. Is what you're saying. It's the hotel. It's the hotel.
It's what Dunston wants is in direct opposition to what Rutledge wants. And
one last question from me about
is in direct opposition to what Dunston wants. So I think
all right, now how do you inject the Shining into Dunston Checks In?
Oh, that's a lot heavier than I was expecting.
I guess that's kind of that was a loaded question. I'm sorry, but
I was going to say I think this should. If you made a list of great hotel movies, this should definitely be on it, and it would be on the same list.
What else is there? What other
this
hotel movies are there?
Two after The Shining
and
right?
Dunston Checks.
I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. 1408,
1408,
Lover Bunny. What is Barton Fink?
Blame It on the Bellboy.
Oh yeah, Barton Fink.
Barton Fink. Is that a hotel?
All right, maybe we over. Oh, of course, I still know what you did last.
Haunted Honeymoon.
Sure. How could I forget that? Scary Movie 2? Is that a mansion movie?
No, how could I forget?
Mansions and hotels are kind of, they should be separated maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day.
It should be in a bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast does feel different.
Oh, what about bed and breakfast?
Yeah. Dunston really doesn't have that much of a, I don't know if it has like a retroactive beloved like reputation anymore, does it? I don't hear about it.
I feel like it is a known, like it is a loved movie. Like it is a known.
I think it deserves it. I think it's from people who grew up with it or knew about it. I don't think a lot of younger people know about this movie at all. Like this is definitely a product of its time. And if you've seen it, then you're like, this is fun. But I don't know a lot of like, I don't think it's a cult film. Like it may be a small cult film. But this is definitely a movie that deserves to
be of Congo, correct.
Just because it almost feels like
let me throw this out because Nathan, you program festivals, and Jeff, you go. I know you go to them at least.
Yeah.
What is the perfect double feature with Dunston Checks In?
Oh, great question.
I have my choices, but I want to hear yours first.
Jesus fucking Christ! Why did you ask me this?
That's up to you. That's up to you. Or do you go 90s? Do you go period?
There's so many questions. Do you go hotel or do you go animal? Do you?
No, I would definitely go hotel, or I would go
90s. Like Andre.
Okay, so you know what I would do? All right, so this helps me to cancel this out. So right off the bat, I have to go with something that is in dynamic contrast to Dunston, which is a kids movie comedy, which means that I want to juxtapose it with something that travels similar thematic territory, whether it be an animal situation or a hotel situation. So I guess it really comes down to Congo or The Shining. Jesus Christ. Or maybe I turn mine into a triple feature and use Dunston Checks In to connect the two. So we go from a hotel movie to a monkey movie and use Dunston Checks In as the connective tissue.
So it's a sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb.
Wow. Okay.
Do something completely opposite. And I would go with either Camp Nowhere or Masterminds.
You just really blew my mind.
That's interesting.
I think Masterminds would be a perfect.
I wouldn't have thought to go there. I think I was going hotel when I was thinking about it, but I was trying to keep my double feature sunny. I know like Jeff, the inclination is to always make it like, separate tones, but I think for some reason I wanted, maybe it's the times that I'm in. I wanted to keep it kind of sunny. So I was thinking of another movie that is not well known. Barry Sonnenfeld's For Love or Money. Have you guys seen that?
Ooh,
Jay Fox. Yeah. It's 90. I think I want to say 93 or maybe it's 96. I don't even remember.
Michael J. Fox. Yeah.
But it's got a very similar hotel vibe, and it's in the same era, but it's for adults. It's a comedy for adults versus the comedy for kids. It would be a very sunny double feature. I'm keeping it light and positive.
I remember that trailer burned in my brain where he's riding.
I didn't want to
that's
throw the wrench in. I know, but I know that.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
I can respect that,
and it's a good movie that people just have forgotten completely.
No, that's a great pull. Yeah. So post-mortem, Dunston checks in. We've talked a bit about why this isn't a cult movie, or it's not enough of a cult movie. But 25 years later, 2.5 decades. What do you think about Dunston Checks In? Do you recommend it outside of your circle of movie friends? Would you recommend it to anybody?
When I made a comment in the Genre Blast alumni group, when we first started talking straight out of the gate, I made this comment, and I'm going to make this comment again. I would simply make this recommendation based on the fact that Pee Wee Herman is stalking a monkey that he thinks is named Pongo Pygmaeus, and I think that on that alone, it is strong enough for a recommendation, especially for children.
I mean, on like Pee Wee alone is a recommendation for me for any movie. But yeah, I totally agree there. But I would go as far to say like anyone. I would recommend it to people my age. I'm 38 that have a fondness for the 90s. Number one, but number two, like can totally put themselves in that mindset when they watch these movies and when they revisit them. Because, people revisit, like sometimes people revisit these old movies and then they like, I don't know what they're expecting from them. You know what I mean? Like they'll revisit something like this. They'll be like, it was just a stupid movie with a monkey. Why did I like this? But I would recommend it to a lot of my friends that I know that can actually kind of like recalibrate their brains to when they were kids and like enjoy it for what it is and how well it's doing what it's trying to do. And this is actually one of the best examples of like that era, of the kids era, I think. I mean, it's not Babe. Mm-hmm. Sure, but what is Babe? I mean, Babe is like a fucking masterpiece. You know what I mean? But it's hovering underneath somewhere.
Well, I do want to say one thing about what you just said. Yes. I was in a situation very recently where, I revisited a movie that I had watched countless times as a child, as a young man, whatever, and always was just sort of rolled my eyes at it when comparing it to Star Wars, and just being like, because Star Wars is the best, and Star Wars, yada,
hard comparison for anybody, yeah.
Right. It's just like you would laugh at any sort of comparison to Star Wars. But I got to tell you, 35-year-old Jeff prefers, this is really going to be inflammatory, but I'm going to just say it. 35-year-old Jeff prefers the Flash Gordon film to episode 4. Not Empire, not Return of the Jedi, but A New Hope. If I have to pick between A New Hope and Flash Gordon, I'm going Flash Gordon. I'm sorry to say.
I'll say this. I recently rewatched it after like not watching it for about 15 years, and it played that much better to me too. I'm not going to, I don't know if I have like a ranking for it or anything, but I'll say this. It's like, I revisited it and then it kind of like turned into one of my new favorite movies that I've seen before that never kind of ranked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But did you ever think that you would have such a difference of opinion? Because I'm going, this is all based on the comment that one of you made about like, oh, you just rewatched it because it was something you watched as a kid. But it's like, I've rewatched movies that I watched as a kid. I'm just like, holy shit, this movie is like way more incredible. And then the flip side is, oh my God, like what did I see in this film? And this film is like absolutely ridiculous and yada, yada, yada.
Like how I rewatched Dunston Checks In and I'm like, oh, that lady was trying to fuck everyone. I didn't know that in 1996.
Right.
96, I thought she just wanted to hang out. I didn't get it, but I get it now and it's actually funnier and it has more value. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or Rutledge's dark backstory, even without our fake one, still has more value to me now when I watch it. I'm like, okay, they had something going here. Like it wasn't all just completely hollow for a kid's movie. There's something there. So yeah, there's an appreciation that I noticed when I rewatched Dunston, and I did same with Flash.
Not to throw a movie under the bus, but I remember going to the theater to see Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like opening weekend. I was so jazzed to see it, and I remember, my 10, 11-year-old self absolutely loved that movie. I was over the moon about it. And then I rewatched it a couple years later, and I was like, "Oh,
you know what? My Robin Hood has always been like Carrie Elwes. So.
Alan Rickman still holds up, but everything else
that's
is
when
just
I think Robin Hood. He's who I see in my
hell to the hell fucking yeah.
Like he's my Robin Hood. Great. Yeah. Like I know everyone has their own Robin Hood, but like in my mind's eye, it's always him.
That movie is still hilarious.
No, it's not him. It's not Russell Crowe, sadly.
It's not
there's so many like
Taron Egerton.
There's so many Robin Hood movies because the IP is free to use. Yeah, that's why there's so many of them. I'm glad there's not more. And Hollywood really had a hard time with King
Dracula.
Robin
Hood, King Arthur, Dracula, Sherlock Holmes. Like it's just free for all.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I was so upset that they didn't
Yes,
more.
I did.
It was like it had like a real underworld feel to it.
That was kind of their first light attempt at a dark universe that failed.
Yes,
because I Frankenstein, it was like I Frankenstein, and that Frankenstein was atrocious on a level that I almost enjoyed it. Like I almost enjoyed it.
Never seen it.
Yes. Oh my god, dude! Perfect pulse. Yes,
that movie's on the same level as like Ultraviolet and like Priest, and it's just like.
What happened here?
Like this movie should be so fucking badass, and it's not. And you're watching it, and you're like,
not to spoil it, but for
the
Jeff,
words are not making sense coming out of their mouths. Like what is happening?
I remember being 20 minutes into that movie, and I was watching it with friends, and I said, "There is no way this movie doesn't involve an army of Frankensteins being created," and that is totally the plot.
That totally did not ruin it for me. By the way, now that we're talking about this, I just have to add one thing.
That is the plot.
Do you know what totally fucking is just such a fun movie that everybody hated? I mean, hated.
Can I take a guess before you say it?
Yeah, it's in this ballpark.
You're gonna say Van Helsing, aren't you?
At 1 billion.
You're gonna say Van Helsing, right? Yeah.
Yep. Van Helsing. Dude, Van Helsing is so
Let's be honest.
I love it.
Steven Summers
is a great Van Helsing too. I fucking love
filmmaker that has never gotten into
The Mummy, right? Didn't he do The Mummy?
Mummy and The Mummy Returns, two of the funnest fucking
love The Mummy
movies ever.
Yep.
Right.
Dude, the fact that he made Van Helsing after those Mummy movies. I mean, Van Helsing.
The only one he did make was the one that sucks.
You know what's funny is that Universal tried to do their own dark universe, and it was like, hey, assholes. Steven Summers made his dark universe first. He had the Mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein, everything. All right. You know,
I have an open invitation right now. I'm inviting both of you because this is such an awesome subject. I'm inviting both of you onto the Jeff Show, which I do on my YouTube channel, and we are going to talk about takes that we want to see of the Universal monsters.
I'm down.
Okay,
I'm down for that.
Okay, we'll talk. We'll figure that out. But because I really want to hash that out thoroughly. But we can't talk about it now.
Yeah,
but I want to
connect that to Dunston Checks In as much as I'd love to.
That's right. That's how you would.
That'd be kind of cool, though.
Dunston in the dark universe. I
imagine like a Buck Lafarge Van Helsing fight.
Orangutan.
Yes.
It'd be incredible.
Hanging out with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I love it. So we're going to wrap it up here for Dunston Checks In. I want to thank Jeff and Bob for talking. I love the tangents too. You never know where it's going to go. I think this was an entertaining show.
So
go ahead and give us your plugs, guys. Let everybody know how they can find you.
One podcast with multiple shows on it. And that is at thundergrunt.com and thundergrunt on any of the popular podcast apps. And if you want to find me, I am at thundergruntbob on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and my YouTube is youtube.com/thundergrunt, or just look me up by name.
If you liked any of the batshit insanity that spewed out of my mouth on Nate's awesome podcast. Thank you for having me, Nate, by the way.
Thank you for having me too. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Just go to the Frumess YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/c/Frumess Films LLC. Just look for Frumess on YouTube, where you can hear all sorts of crazy hot takes. If you're a fan of the movie Return of the Living Dead, I've probably done about hours and hours and hours about Return of the Living Dead alone.
Who's not a fan of Return of the Living Dead? It's
I know, right?
Incredible, right?
So check that out. That's what I plug.
Well, there you have it. Dunston Checks In its entirety, from tops to tails. I think we've pretty much covered everything on Dunston Checks In. I don't know about you. You can let us know on social media. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook at Real96 Podcast. You can find us there, probably on Instagram too. Or you can just email us, real96podcast@gmail.com. Give us some feedback, maybe some suggestions for guests. Maybe you're interested in being a guest. If you are excited about a particular film and want to talk about it with me, let us know. Let me know. Why do I keep saying us? It's just me. Let me know. I guess it just sounds more professional when you say us, like there's a team of people ready to do a 1996 podcast. It's just me and my weird obsession with a 25 years later movie podcast. With that said, this is the thanks and credits portion of the podcast. I want to thank Chris Enterline for making an amazing poster for the Real 96 podcast. It has a lot of the famous films from 1996 and a kind of a collage poster. You can check it out on social media. It helps us promote the podcast and gives you an idea of the fun you're going to have listening to this podcast. Big thanks to Landon Knobloch for creating the intro and outro theme song for the podcast. It definitely is a mix of Entertainment Tonight and Siskel and Ebert at the Movies, if you remember those shows. And also, I want to thank Brandon Hopkins for doing the intro and outro voiceover. And I want to thank you for listening, for caring enough to check out this podcast. If you had fun with this podcast and you want to hear about a specific film, please subscribe to us on whatever podcast service you are listening to. Spread the word on social media. Let people know that this is a real thing, and we're going to keep going all the way through the end of the year, all the way to the last films of 1996. I think Scream is in December, so you got a big one there to wait for. A lot of good films to cover, so you have a lot to look forward to. And so do I, because I'm really enjoying this. We've already done about a dozen episodes, and we're taping. That's an old... That reveals my age, taping. We're recording episodes all the time. We're going to be dropping episodes all the time. Since there's over 200 films, it's going to be more than once a week. So if you're going to commit yourself to this podcast, you're going to get lots of content. And we're going to be also posting a lot more stuff on social media too, and get involved. Maybe some videos too, sharing articles and whatnot. So again, thank you for listening to the Real 96 podcast. And I hope you keep listening, because I'm going to put 110% effort into making this show as entertaining and as informative as possible. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from in the scope of movie knowledge, this podcast is for you. It's for all of you. And I want to thank you once again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Stay tuned for Biodome. That's our next episode. It's a doozy, and whether you love or hate that movie, you're going to have a good time with that one. That's all I'm going to say. So until next time, we'll watch a movie.
You've been listening to the Real 96 podcast, recorded in the bustling metropolis of Midlothian, Virginia. This show is a Genre Blast production. Now go watch a movie.